obviously we're talking about legacy.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that you want people to know about you as far as legacy goes? I read the definition early, so it could be tangible stuff, it could be non-tangible stuff. What's one thing, if you can choose, what would that be?
I think the main thing from all of my travels is, and I sort of stole this a while back from one of our founders, but it's so true. Always show up.
Yeah.
Show up for people, but even more importantly, show up for yourself.
Without a doubt, that's a big deal.
Hey there, health and wellness fans. Good evening and welcome to episode 22 of the Ycast, the podcast that's revolutionizing the way men think about their health and wellness and their life one conversation at a time. I'm Tony, and next to me is my partner and co-founder, Rob. How you doing, Rob?
Pretty good. How about you today? 22. Did you say 22?
I said 22,
That's
man.
a lot, man.
You know,
all right.
it keeps growing.
There. Yeah, it is.
It comes after 21.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's where I failed.
Yeah.
All right.
With all the craziness in the world right now, how are you maintaining your wellness and mindset?
A lot of working out, running helps my mindset.
Yeah, it's hard. It's the answer,
Yeah,
and it's hard to tell people and to convince people because some people just don't think it's the answer.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't work for them.
Yeah. Well, or they didn't give it enough time, right?
Yeah.
You have to give it enough time. It definitely helps mental energy and physical energy.
Yeah, it just removes all the anxiety just drips off my body.
Without a
from
doubt.
it. When I miss a day or something, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, I'm like that too. Yeah.
So,
and it helps with ADHD, as you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not bad.
Well, I wish my body, responded to all of the working out and the wellness I put into myself. Sometimes I feel like it doesn't. It's just like, oh man.
I think you're hard on yourself.
Yeah, well,
I think it does.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
Speaking of ourselves, this show tonight is going to be about legacy, right? Yeah. Because you and I had an interesting interaction last show.
We did.
When we talked, it was just a regular question we had from the viewers, and I asked you, and I thought you were kind of weird about it, and I pressed you on it, and then you kind of explained your take on legacy. Yeah. And it led to, we got a lot of emails and just people that we know, family and friends, asking the question about it. And so I think everybody got a lot from it, from your take and from, the definition of legacy and how people approach it. So today we're going to dive in, to the conversation that sits right at the intersection of this topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
The complete man is, I guess
that's what we were talking about last time.
Everything
what does that mean?
Everything we're building up.
Yeah.
And how does that all affect your legacy?
Yeah.
And if you care about it, if you don't, or so we're gonna jump in today and talk about to our guest.
Yeah.
Who someone who's actually doing it. He's an entrepreneur, he's a father, founder of a very successful supplement company. So you've seen kind of under the hood, behind the scenes of what goes on, and he's living the grind in the boardroom, and he's at a high business level, high health, no stigmas, no fluff, just the blueprint for the modern man, what we're promoting. So joining us today is as close as you're going to get to the complete man, founder of Flip My Life Wellness, John Cammarano.
Yeah.
How you doing, John? Welcome in.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. Glad to have you, John.
Good to see you. You're looking relaxed. Where are you right now? You're in the state of Florida, correct?
I'm in Florida. Yeah, I'm on the beach for the weekend.
There you go.
Yeah. Good workout spot too, man. Right? Florida
Absolutely.
beach. Can't beat that. Warm.
Yeah, yesterday
nice,
did a 3-mile beach walk and capped it off with a few hundred push-ups on the pier.
There you go.
Pretty good. Okay, I like it.
No gym.
Yeah.
You don't always need a gym.
Yeah.
We talk about that. You don't always need a gym. Yeah, exactly. You can exercise anywhere.
Yeah, I think the benefits you get from exercising is just your environment.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, people look at me when I'm doing push-ups on a plane, but
Yeah.
whatever. I do it. It's like, hey.
But we talked about
Yeah.
last show. We were talking about the beach, like
Yeah.
whatever moves you, motivates you.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
And
think so,
talk
too.
about putting yourself in a positive mindset as you're working out on the beach, and the
Right. Oh,
birds are all,
definitely.
Right.
the birds are flying, and the salt air breeze is blowing, and
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
a
that's
beautiful
nice.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. And just the ocean itself. I mean, the ions in the ocean that come
Yeah.
off, it just gives you that, relaxes you.
It's therapeutic
It
for
really
sure.
is. No
The
question about
neg
it.
ions.
Yeah.
We
without
were
a doubt.
talking about specifically, like, we don't really appreciate the aspect of prepping and going
Yeah.
to the beach, but once you get there, it's like, oh my God,
Yeah,
I'm
it
so
is.
glad I
It's a,
came.
it's a nice feel. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Anything you want to add? Any history, where you are
Yeah.
today, and then we'll jump into some questions because we want to grill you.
Tony, I'm an old infomercial guy. I was a product developer and inventor for decades. And, I would create a product, I would invent a product, and I would identify a category and that was that was trending, and I would build a product, and then I would write an infomercial, produce that commercial, and then and test it on national TV. And if it worked, I would license it off to major companies.
Right.
That was my journey early on. But then with COVID, everything changed. The whole infomercial business
Yeah.
died, and actually my personal health during COVID was the impetus for this company. It was time to build a brand, and these products that we built for Flip My Life Wellness were part of my personal journey.
Yeah.
I had this holy crap moment that a lot of guys have as they start approaching 60, and you wake up one day and you look in the mirror and you go, oh boy, something's got to give.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I weighed 210 pounds. I had major gut issues, and I felt like crap. So I called my doctor at the time, and he just loaded me up with all of these supplements, all these individual vitamins. And I had this sort of array of bottles that I was taking. And to be
Yeah.
honest, they were making me sick. They were making my gut issues worse. And I decided, something's got to change. And being that infomercial guy, and all of a sudden the sirens start going off in your head, opportunity,
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
because
good
I
point.
was trying all of the proteins and all of the meal replacements, and they were making my gut issues worse. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was the impetus for the company. It was
Yeah.
my personal journey. Flip 7 was born out of that. I mean, barring all of the months and months and months of laborious product development and formulation testing and what have you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's how it
Well,
all started.
yeah. Well, you hit on something that I think, a lot of people run into, as to your point, as they get older, especially, men, we're talking about men's health. They go and they get all these supplements, and it actually makes them worse, their stomach, and they don't have good supplements or absorption
Right.
levels. So I think that's the
That's
beauty
right.
of what John's doing with the product line.
Yeah.
Is that, he's getting the top ingredients and putting it into the formulations and
Yeah.
helping people. So it's a big
Yeah. And I love this story because someone who's dealing with those effects and then taking upon themselves and saying, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah. Love
But
it.
you do have, and I've been watching you for a long time, kind of from a distance and seeing, like, you have that, whatever it is, that special talent where, you just pick something up and, obviously you have great people around you and you know
That's
what you're
right.
doing, but you do have that ability to pick up and make successful and move on to the next thing.
It's
So
it's an
that's
i- it's
inspiring.
a it's sort of like a spidey sense of identifying a
Yeah.
a hole in the marketplace
Right.
within a specific category,
Right.
and then obviously you need amazing people
Yeah.
around you. And once you get over yourself and you realize that it's better to put smarter people in your orbit than you, and let them do their thing, get out of their way, and stay in your lane, that's when the magic happens. I think it was
It's good
Richard
advice.
Branson. That was Richard Branson's philosophy, and I
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
hijacked that, but it's so damn
Yeah,
true.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
for
true,
those
without
people
doubt.
to perform at their best, you have to have a good leader. You have to have someone that, inspires other people and is not micromanaging, things like that. And we know that
Well,
'cause
that's the
Rob and
worst
I
thing you
both,
can do,
yeah,
right? Is micromanage talent because you don't let them flourish,
right,
and you don't get what you need from them. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we're gonna,
in between COVID and during the process, I was also consulting for a couple of companies, and that was the first thing I witnessed was
Yeah,
the founders. They just they have to control every aspect of the business, and that's
right,
that.
right. You got to
yeah.
trust, you got to let go. Speaking of the business though, flipmylifewellness.com. Is that correct, John?
Flip my life now.
Now,
Flip my
yeah,
life now.
Yeah.
.com.
yeah.
Okay. So Rob, you want to,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
So I'm a huge fan of the product line, as you know, John.
As I
So
know.
yes, so I've been
me
taking.
too now, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, exactly. I do the protein drinks but I'm going to promote this one because Flip 8, I mean, I love this. This is one of my favorite products. I use it for recovery. The creatine, HMB in there, the cordyceps, I mean, colostrum, all good ingredients, the branched chain aminos together. For me, this is one of the best products. I get it all in one. I do it kind of post-workout. Some people could do a pre-workout, but I do a post-workout
Yeah.
because I work out too early in the morning. But I love it. It's been a great product for me. And, I think if you want to try something that has a lot of good ingredients, creatine's important. We talked about that. We had a whole show on creatine and why you should take it. HMB for muscle loss, right? Especially if you're on GLP-1s and, you're losing weight, right? You're losing muscle. So for support, very much so. So,
I love it too.
And the
I mean,
flavor, here's
The
the thing
flavor's
that
great.
I got to
Yep.
say, yeah, the flavor, because you put a lot of ingredients. Ingredients don't taste good. I don't care. You and I work in this field, Tony and John, and so we know what it's like, right? You put that many ingredients together and have something that tastes that good. That's a holy grail.
Yeah.
I mean, it
And
really
with
is because
and with no junk. No
right,
junk.
no junk. Yeah,
Right?
no excipients that are. Yeah, there's no junk in there. No fillers. It's just everything you need, which is an amazing product. So great job on that. And I
Thank
think it's an
you.
amazing product.
And
So.
Rob, I wanted to say that that's sort of the philosophy for when we do innovation. It's
Yeah.
Here's another product, creatine. There's 1,000 creatine products in the
No doubt.
marketplace, right?
What differentiates
But
it?
I could never take creatine before. It would always make me nauseous. So what we do is we sort of build this synergistic family of ingredients within the formulation that bolsters the actives, but also combats the side effects. So
Yeah.
now I can take creatine and it's a full clinical dose.
Yeah.
Within every serving.
No, that's an important component to it is that the ingredients chosen in the product actually help each other, right? And like creatine is sometimes people don't absorb it well. They get gut issues, they get bloat, as you know. But the way this is designed, we do have some ingredients in there that are synergistic to the creatine, HMB, the amino acids. So it all plays together very well. And you don't get the side effects. You really don't. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Well, in this blend too, I think it gives it, you're also giving people the opportunity to kind of reduce their whole intake of vitamins.
That's
like
the other
12 different containers, right? Now you got one container, one scoop,
that's right.
and that's a great point, Tony.
And that's the other main pillar, Tony, for the brand in every SKU innovation that comes out.
That's what I love about it, because I was taking like 12, 15 different vitamins and now, or supplements, and now I'm down to like 6, which is nice. Using your stuff, but all your stuff tastes great. I mean, I'm always that skeptic. I always like trying stuff. Let me see.
You are, by the way. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, you mentioned it, but our development, and we've been doing this a long time. We work on very, very small platforms, delivery platforms, and to flavor things, it's very difficult for the stuff we do. And we know how important flavor development is. Well, and that's the first thing. And most people, they're going to buy something because their doctor told them, or they got it from a friend or their trainer. But until they really understand what they're taking, their first impression is better taste good.
If
I'm going to do
that
this.
Is the first impression, no question. Well, the two aspects I think that work real well with this product line, right, and the Flip My Life, is the flavor, like you said, right, but also putting a lot of ingredients, into one product, so you have to take less. What does that do? That increases compliance.
Yeah.
If you want people to see a difference, they have to do it for a while, right? I mean, sometimes you'll see it pretty quick, but you want to do it for a while. A lot of problems with the other supplements or the, consumers, they try it and they're done. They're tired of taking, you told me this, tired of taking 12 pills a day or 20 different, bottles of whatever powders you're mixing. This is, one and done. And that helps compliance as well. So
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, check it out, guys. Flipmylifenow.com.
Yeah. I got our producer on it too. He's got some protein.
Good.
Flip My Life. Yeah.
He's good. I hope he subscribed.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, John. So we're going to jump in a little bit. This show is based on something we talked about. I'm sure you heard it in the beginning about legacy. So we thought it'd be good because you are someone who's, putting together this legacy on the business side, the family side, and everything you're doing. But I do want to read this definition because one of the questions we got was, about what does legacy really mean and stuff like that. So I want to read this because I think everybody's going to approach it differently. A person's legacy is the lasting impact, influence, and memories they leave behind, encompassing both tangible assets, money and property, meaning, and intangible contributions like values, lessons, and relationships. It's the story of their life. And I think like these questions are going to comprise a lot of that definition from you because we're always interested in talking to guys like yourself who've been through everything and understand how life works and works with great people. So, do you want to add to that, Rob?
No, I love it. I think that's a great definition. It depends on which component of legacy, in my opinion, and everyone has their own.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to read that.
Right. What you really care about, and there's plenty of parts that I care about there, and some not so much. So,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So why don't we start out this? Would take us back to the early days of building your company. I know you mentioned a little bit, but we'll go individually here. Were you like this classic entrepreneur guy? The coffees, the meetings, the late nights, or how did you integrate your health into those moments opposed to where you are currently?
Well, I sort of went into this. I am not this fanatic. I don't lose sleep at night over what's coming the next day, what we're creating. I live in this sort of positive manifestation always, even in the down times. It's like this. I don't know whether it's a superpower or it's absolute ignorance, but
maybe they're one of the same.
It could be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's there's always, for me, there's always that next level of success right around the corner, and I live in that mode. And I also I don't obsess and I don't go overboard with anything. For me, I'm a Libra, so everything's sort of balanced, right? So I live in this level of moderation when it comes to stress levels, and even food consumption and everything. I don't take anything to the extreme. But like I said, there was a period after, during COVID where you have this, we had this moment of introspection, and we all had a little too much time on our hands to get in our heads. And, I had this sort of epiphany, and this relates back to very directly to your question regarding legacy. I've had an amazing career of products and infomercials and retail sales, but who's going to remember a Fushigi ball or some silly kitchen gadget that I invented, right? And
well, you'd be surprised, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah.
I still remember Pet Rock, so I don't know.
Yeah, well,
yes, but you're right though. It's not definitive,
and
right?
this, it became blaringly apparent that, it was time to build something that was a legacy brand and Flip My Life. Whether, it's another brand amongst, all of the thousands and thousands of products within the orbit, but still, it's our way of, changing the world a little bit, just that little bit, and making, offering people what we call their flip my life moments,
Yeah.
and then allowing them to share them. And that's the other whole part of flip my life is the community. And that is a beautiful legacy. And the other thing is, besides the big picture things, right? How we live, how we choose to live our lives as a human on this planet, and in the short period that we're here. My daughter actually works for the company. She runs our customer service department. So she's in the trenches and she sees and witnesses what dad and the team has built,
Yeah.
and how the lives are being changed every single day. And that just makes me so proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. That's amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's part of the whole story
Yeah.
that you're bringing to the table, because I know, I mean, we've been in this industry
Yeah.
for 30 years almost,
Yeah.
right?
Shh, don't tell me.
We started
It's
when
been a
we were
while.
4.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, we deal with brands every day.
Yeah.
And I could tell you, if you put 10 brands in front of me, there's 1 or 2 that have a story behind the brand.
Right.
So I don't think it's as hard to differentiate yourself than, one might think, because I really do believe people will go to your website. They'll all of a sudden go down that rabbit hole of, oh, I want to know what this story is.
Right.
They can relate to you, John, and the people you have around you. You've got a show on Thursday you guys do as well. You do like a podcast or something. So you're giving information out. You guys are very active on social media. So it's
Very
building.
active. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
building
Very
a
active.
story.
Yeah. And what I
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm sorry. John.
No, I was going to say, also a lot of brands, they use high paid influencers and celebrities, and
Yeah.
yes, we have a celebrity associated with, but that celebrity is a personal friend and someone who truly believes in everything we're doing, and lives it, and sleeps these products.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Without a
you
doubt. Yeah.
know and every one of our ads, because you'll see them all over Instagram and Facebook, but every one of those people, those are real customers. Those are
Yeah.
not people that we've hired and say, hey, go make us a video and I'll pay you
Right.
$2,000
Yeah.
to $3,000.
Yeah.
These are real people
Yeah.
and real stories. And that is resonating. It's breaking through. And
Yeah. And
our
I think
customers
that,
see it.
yeah, and that's part of what resonates with the brand, that the fact that you built this brand because you want to use it. You want something good, right? So it's
Imagine
such a,
that.
you're right, right. So it's not, oh, I want to sell a product and, just make a ton of money. I want to make a difference, and I want a
Yeah.
better product out there for people that want to change their lifestyle, right? Their
Yeah,
fitness levels.
and honestly, and I say this all the time, but whether it sounds cliche or not, it
Yeah.
wasn't about the money.
Yeah,
Because
I believe
I'm
it.
someone that could attest to this, I've lived those experiences where, there was times where I had nothing. I didn't have
Mhm.
any money,
Right.
but knowing that I had the number one infomercial coming, right? And we were
Yeah.
working out all of the pieces of the puzzle for that. Those were the best times of my career.
Yeah.
Those were the best days. Those times were so much sweeter than
Yeah.
when the money came in.
I get it. I get
I
that.
and I
Yeah.
hope people can understand that.
Yeah.
It's that whole journey thing. It's a
The
beautiful
the
thing.
the right people do.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
Without, and
important.
I would concur with that statement
Yeah.
too. By the way, I haven't done a couple of product launches myself
Yeah.
and created several products. It's true. It's that journey that really is the most exciting component. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Actually, at the end, it's almost like when you're done.
it's so anticlimactic.
It's so, yeah. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
all right, that was nice,
Yeah.
but now what's next?
Yeah, now I gotta go do it
Constant-
again.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, and you have.
Yeah,
So hey, within that journey, earlier on you mentioned COVID, and I think you were talking about how maybe during that period you were, I guess, quote unquote, out of shape, or you weren't where you wanted to be. When did that light bulb go off for you to bring you to the spot you are now in your wellness?
I remember the day like it was yesterday. I woke up, I went into my office, and I sat there for a little while. I got up, I went back in, I checked my emails, and it was just a typical day. And then I went back in to the bedroom, and I ended up looking at myself in the mirror, and and I just didn't like what I saw. And I had this realization that, all right, you're getting ready to turn 60. how many years left on this planet do you really have?
Right.
Right? I mean, what
Yeah.
is our average lifespan? So what do you have? 25 good years? And as we get older, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
63 now.
Yeah.
10 years goes like that.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
And it was like the light bulbs and sirens and fire trucks. It was like, you got to make a change. Something's
Yeah.
got to give. Just do it and do it now. And I was coming off of a really tumultuous time, both in my personal life and
Mhm.
in business, which we can get into later. Some of the dark days, which were literally the sort of the segue and the impetus into changing my life and my
Yeah.
my wellness,
Yeah.
and which led into the creation of this company. So I guess it's all part of my journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point when we get into it. But, sometimes those dark times in your life are what, is the catalyst to, making changes that are so
Yeah.
much more beneficial for you and just a better life in general. Right. And
Well, they
that's
shape
what's
your
great.
character.
They do.
Yeah, I mean,
They
without the
absolutely do.
dark, how do we identify the light?
The light. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I'm going to use that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Write that quote down.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like it.
So within all this, John, as a man, we often tie value to our output, which, I think you're a product of by what you're telling us. How did you shift your mindset from working hard to working healthy without feeling like you're kind of losing your edge within that story?
It's true. But honestly, Tony, I don't think we ever fully shake or conquer that delta between self-valuation and mindset. It's an absolute work in progress.
Yeah.
Every day we try to learn. And I you know I mean, I'm still that person where on a Friday afternoon, 2 o'clock, I can't bring myself to go out and cut the lawn when the rest of the world's already cut out. Because in
Right.
my mind, my mind's saying work, work, work. It's still
Yeah.
work day. Finish the day.
Right.
I'm still in that mindset. But like I said before, I still have always learned how to balance. And when it is time to shut it off and put it in a box, that's where it goes.
Yeah.
At night, I mean, imagine me. I was running a business for many years where I had to work with China, and they can never get me at night because they're 12 hours ahead.
Right.
Because I shut it off at night.
Yeah.
I just shut it off. And on the weekends, there's no emails. I'm done. I'm out.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
We
time to
talked
live my
about
life.
setting boundaries.
Yeah, that's a
many
great-
times
yeah.
on the show, which
Yeah,
we
without doubt.
think is very important for growth for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You talked about some dark times. Let's talk about stigmas that you've had to overcome. I mean, I look at you said I looked in the mirror. So outside of the aesthetics, what type of stigmas or other hurdles did you have to overcome?
That's a really tough question. I mean, obviously there are times when, we can be our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I'm very ritualistic. So when I get into working out and running and shifting my diet habits, once I make that decision, it goes on autopilot.
Yeah.
And then once I get into that routine, it's like this mandatory commitment that I've made to myself.
Right.
So thank
It's
goodness.
a contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a contract. And
Makes sense.
I use this line a lot, you've got to, you got to take care of yourself. You got to live, you got to take care of the body because honestly, I mean, if I'm going to curse it, if I'm a bag of shit, I'm no good to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that I am running at my peak. Now, like I said, there are times where we all fall off the proverbial wagon,
Yes.
right? Life comes in ebbs and flows, and whatever we're dealing with, it obviously affects our mindset.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's I'm very grateful that I am ritualistic in that way.
Yeah.
So it's not hard for me to get into that routine and stay consistent and stay committed to my program.
Yeah.
Whatever
Well,
it may be.
most successful people I know have
Can do that.
routines,
Yeah,
have
they have routines.
rituals and
Yep.
things they follow.
Which is important, right?
It's very important.
Yeah.
I think it's the
We talked about
foundation.
this quite a bit
Yeah,
on the show.
yeah.
Just that consistency is everything, right? Absolutely.
It's
Exactly.
everything. It's
It really
everything.
is. Consistency is everything.
And that's
Well-
the beautiful thing, to go back to these products, because now with the new product, the innovation products,
Yeah.
my routine now is get up in the morning, take flip 6,
Yeah.
right? Lunchtime, I have a shake with
Yeah.
flip 7, and then prior to whatever my workout is for that day, that evening, because I work out at night, I take flip 8. So it's just this constant routine, and like you said earlier, think about all of the ingredients and all of the goodness that someone's putting into their body when they're taking just those 3 products and not this whole cabinet full of crap.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And again, that helps induce consistency, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
Because again, you're not doing a whole bunch of different things. You got to
Make it easy.
Make it
easy.
Yeah. I think that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quality versus quantity.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Well, speaking of products, so outside of the development and the awesome stuff that you guys are building, you're seeing kind of behind the scenes of this industry, this wellness industry, supplements, all types of things that you probably get a vantage point that most people don't. What is in your opinion, what is the three, or no, what are some of the biggest lies men are being told right now in the wellness industry, or maybe even something you believed early on that you've changed your mind on?
Well, number one, without a doubt, is that there's some magic pill, right?
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't, there's no one product, whether it's ours or anybody else's, is going to, change everything overnight. You
Yeah,
have to put in the work. You have to put in the movement. You've got to change your habits. You've got to change your way you consume food and moderate that consumption.
Without a doubt.
And get this right.
Yeah.
So
That's
a great
where it
response.
starts.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's where everything starts. It goes from here, and then it goes to the gut, and
Mentality.
then everything else should fall into place.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So-
and most products.
Yeah.
I mean, even like exercise equipment down to supplements. A lot of them you read on the back panel. It says, take this alongside exercise and diet and exercise.
I mean,
it's always
the disclaimer, right?
you have to.
You have to do a lot of different
It's a
things.
complete thing. It's
Yeah.
not just one magic.
No
pill,
magic
like you
pill.
said.
Yeah. I'm still looking for that. You're pretty close to the Fountain of Youth though in Florida. So have you found it?
Yeah, if I find it, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
What here's what I want to know too is as far as supplements go, in your experience, what would you say are the top, give me like 3 or 5 of the top non-negotiable supplements people should look at?
Well, Tony, honestly, when they're first starting out, I mean, supplementation doesn't matter, like I said, until you get the head right.
Right.
The wellness journey starts with proper mindset, making the decision to commit and stay consistent, like we said, and showing up for yourself, and little baby steps, right? Walk, run, do something, 10 push-ups today, 15 tomorrow. Just always show yourself, prove to yourself that there's progress. And, then I would focus on supplements that really target the gut health, right? Creating a that proper environment within the microbiome environment to get your digestion, get everything working properly, to help with the absorption, because you can take all the supplements you want. If the gut's not healthy,
Right.
I mean, I don't have to teach you, Rob. This is
Absolutely.
right. I mean, none of it's will do you any good whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then obviously once you start a routine and you've cut out a lot of the junk that you're eating, I would layer in, like I said, gut products. And
I think it's the future.
And protein.
Without
and
doubt.
protein.
Yeah.
You gotta have protein, because
Protein
as
is
we age,
important.
we want to maintain muscle mass. We don't, listen, I'd rather be here on the beach or be able to walk the beach when I'm 85 or 90, like my dad, and or as opposed to laying in some hospital bed with deteriorating bones and muscle.
Without a doubt. And what you said is key. I mean, we start losing muscle at 40, pretty drastically. Believe it or not, and then it gets worse. So protein is such a key. You know, getting gut health. Obviously, I like the step approach that you just mentioned, John. Gut health first, protein, and you know me, I'm always big on HMB and creatine because they do offset that muscle wasting. So with that combination, you know, for me,
but I'm talking at the very beginning,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's my customer. My customer's been out of the game for a while, and they want to get. You know, I joke they want to get back in their 50s, 60s, and 70s the body they had in the 90s.
Right.
So they want to get back on track. So we've got to fix up here first. That's why one of our co-founders is a celebrity mindset coach, Laura St. John. Because I found that had to be key in order to be successful and really create that customer journey and that customer experience. We wanted to give them the tools to get their head in the right place first.
Without a doubt. Yeah, that's key.
So let's talk about your how your protocol evolved. Just on the I would say the whole workout exercise thing you talked about earlier. You mentioned when we first jumped on, you were taking a walk on the beach, and you mentioned just a few minutes ago about, you know, increasing push-ups and doing these things just from maybe a year ago, because a lot of people are interested in this, because I think a lot of people go into the whole fitness world and they think they have to do something, they have to maintain it. But, you know, age, life, work, everything kind of affect that you have to kind of pivot. Where have you evolved just from, I would say, a year ago to now?
Well, if we were to drill it down to the last year, I would say my physical movement programs have really changed. I'm not in the gym as much as I was, which I probably should be. But
I think that's not to cut you off, John. I think that's good though, because like I said, I think a lot of people think they have to do something.
Right.
2 hours a day in the gym or something like that. That's the worst. That's the worst. Yeah.
You know, listen, you know, going back to your last question, you know, you asked me what sort of were my pet peeves of the lies that were told. It's that AI generated 55-year-old guy that's strapped, laden with muscles
that everyone's using for imagery.
And I thought they were using my image.
I thought that was Rob, actually. But, you know, that's some fake social construct that people you don't need that. We don't need that, right? Your wellness journey is like spokes in the wheel. You've got you know, your physical, your nutritional, your mindset. It's all, everything has to fire together, otherwise the wheel's all wobbly. Right. So for me, it's changed. Like now I'm focused a little more on not so much free weights, but I'll go back to them like in a few months. You know, but I'm doing a lot of walking, push-ups. I love push-ups.
So do I. Body workouts, body weight workouts. I've been a big fan of. Absolutely. And then walking. Don't ever underestimate moving and walking. Right. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. Low impact too.
When you're walking, I you know, throw in a few, you know, sprints, like you know, 100-yard sprints. And,
exactly.
You know, so it for me it's ever changing, and that's the beauty of it. Because when I get back in the gym, it'll be my conscious decision, not because I feel I have to, just because I enjoy it. You know,
exactly.
Excuse me, and I don't spend hours. It's, you know, I'm in there for 45 minutes. And I run through my routine.
That's 40 minutes longer than Rob.
I'm in, but you know, hey, 35 minutes more.
Well, we were talking about, we've been talking about products through the whole show, but and you have Rob here, because I know Rob's been you know, helping out on some ingredients and science. So how do you ensure your products stay grounded in science? With you know, your own personal experiences and all these social media trends that are going on right now.
Well, like I said earlier, we really want to make sure that all of our products are rooted in long-standing, solid pillars of health, right? And you know, we always want to incorporate some actives in every product that have some clinical science and some clinical backing. And then we build, like I said earlier, we build this synergistic combination of products that make the whole process easier for our clients, right?
Yeah.
That comprehensive product that replaces 10 to 20 different pills and powders, so they don't have to do that. But these other products or other ingredients that we put in there, they're intended to enhance the efficacy of the actives and the product as a whole.
Mhm.
So you know, I think we've done a really good job in innovation and formulation, and I think Rob would attest to that as well.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, and
for
you are
us,
doing a
if I-
good job of educating too,
Yeah.
because I've been to
Yeah.
your site. I've
No,
been
no.
to your
Yeah. If
social.
if I can interject, I mean, one of the exciting.
Hang on a second. Go.
I'll do fast. One of the exciting things about working with John and the team, what was obvious to me very early on, in that they cared about the science behind the ingredients they were, putting into their
Yeah.
product, and so much that we made sure that there was, there was studies behind these ingredients and references. And I'm going to throw this in there because it's one of my favorite words. We did pretty extensive lit reviews on the ingredients we were using to make sure they work together well.
Yeah.
So to me, that was exciting, and because you and I have worked with so many companies that said, "Oh, just make this. We don't really care."
Yeah, because it's all about the marketing. And
it's about the marketing. And this was such a different approach that's why for me it was so exciting.
I think like when I look at your brand.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, John.
You have to remember the consumer now. Everybody's a pseudo nutritionist.
Yeah.
True,
no, it's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. I mean, so they're very well astute to what you've got in your product, and they'll hammer you on social media. I mean, one person can make your life miserable.
Yes.
So
well,
if
I
you're
think
making
that's
a crap product, you're going to know quite quickly.
True.
Yeah, and I think that's
a good point.
It's kind. I look at it as kind of like a niche market where, like, a lot of supplements that people don't know what the heck they're taking. So if you got people in your feed making comments and understand, and I would say more savvy than the normal consumer, that's actually good.
Yeah.
Because not only are you getting that feedback, you're like, oh, we forgot this ingredient. We should add it.
Yeah. And there's always going to be somebody that wants a different ingredient.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
I mean, that's just nature.
You can't please everybody.
No.
Sugar, like the sweeteners and flavors.
Right.
You'd have 150 SKUs if you were going to try to please everybody. You can't do it.
But to your point, though, that fact that you have people really digging in like that, that's a value customer, because once your product works, right?
As long as they're not assholes,
right.
But
they're going to be, when it works and you identify the issues, they're going to be a customer for life, because you listened, right? And you answered, and you
talk about building customer loyalty, and they become your best proponents of your own products, right?
Without
I mean, that's the future of brand development, is turning your customers into your best salespeople. Period.
Yeah, without a doubt. I definitely agree with that.
Exactly.
And these days it's not cheap to acquire one new customer.
No,
it's
no.
very expensive.
Sure. Yeah.
So you want to do everything you can to keep them.
Yeah, there's a lot of white noise out there, so that's why.
Yeah. So how do you overall, John, in your business, family, social life, how do you shed that CEO skin before you walk through the door and or you're out with your friends, or you're just trying to relax? I know earlier you mentioned you can't even watch someone like mow the lawn because it puts all this stress on you to work. Where's that threshold for you?
Well, like I said before, I've had this uncanny knack to sort of put it in a box. And years ago when I got out of college and I worked for my grandfather in New York City, I'll never forget, he taught me to, and my daughter will say the same thing, because Daddy taught her this, that do your best work during work. But when you're not at work, it's about your family. It's about your personal time, because none of this, in the grand scheme of life, the work, and I hate to say this, but it's sort of like a play on words, but none of it matters. Right. If you ask my daughter Cassie, what did Daddy always teach you when you got stressed out? None of it matters.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's all about the you know, your the way you, the decision you have made on how to, what type of human you want to be, right? Outside of work, you have to just live, and you have to love, and you want to learn, and you want to learn how to lead.
Yeah.
And those 4 L's, that's what we live by. So put
Yeah.
it in a box and it goes. And you know, and there, trust me, there have been, you
Yeah.
know, obviously like anybody else, there are very stressful days, or especially on a Friday where you go, how am I going to get through this weekend
Yeah. Yeah.
with all this stuff hanging over? But I can shut it off, and it's, you know, because we, you know, there's a saying, you know, in the Bible, you know, God will give us what we can handle, right?
Yeah.
So maybe for me, you know, my ability to shut it off and put it in a box till the next workday has been what has saved me and saved all my of me of all the stress levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a gift. We've talked about this, right? Being able to shut it off.
It's definitely
Yeah.
a skill you have to learn,
Yeah,
because
without
I
a
know
doubt. Yeah.
now I feel like I'm at that point where I
Yeah.
could shut down my mind. Doesn't mean I maybe even not stop working,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm able to put some of those stresses from Friday to Monday
Yeah.
in a box, like you said. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I struggle with that
yeah.
too. I mean, that's always been a difficult
Yeah.
process.
You know,
but
you gotta,
do learn.
it's, you know, you can occupy your mind with other things, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you know, and I used this example years and years ago. I wanted to learn how to fly an airplane, right? So, and it was during a very stressful time when I was running my grandfather's brokerage business in New York City.
Right.
And so I started taking lessons, and someone asked me, what is the best thing about flying the airplane, you know, after I got my license? And I said, when you're flying, you cannot focus on anything other than flying that
True.
airplane,
Right.
That's true.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everything else in life, it all was gone. Everything,
Yeah.
the whole slate was wiped clean,
Yeah.
right? So for that 2 or 3 hours that I'm up there, that's it. I'm just
Yeah.
flying the airplane,
Yeah.
you know?
Which is
Definitely good
so
analogy.
yeah, it helped you focus, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Taking
Sure.
that hobby, or flying, helps you focus. And you have a little, I'm going to say this because I know John for many years. You have a little ADHD going on, so for that's pretty good. I mean, we both do. We all do here, probably.
No, I
Folks on
don't. But if you're going to
Definitely.
diagnose
whatever,
people,
Yeah,
But
I
I'm
expect
one of
I
those
expect
guys.
medication.
yeah, yeah.
I'm one of those guys. I can't even brush my teeth till the bed is made.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, speaking of brushing your teeth, leads me to my
I
next
did today. I
question.
promise.
Awesome. Well, you're not close to me, so it doesn't matter. So you're I'm assuming at a lot of points in your life, you're on a plane, you're staying at hotels, you're traveling on business, blah blah blah. What's that emergency travel kit that you have now relating to like sleep and energy and maybe appetite suppression, or what are the 3 things, or what's your like little core emergency kit
Okay. Well,
or maintenance
there,
kit, I should
yeah,
say.
I like
don't.
that though. That's a good, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question, and for many, I'm sure, for many people are quite different than me. But I don't carry a kit. I don't have anything that I bring with me, because when I'm traveling, I'm focused on what I'm doing when I'm traveling.
Right.
So, like I said, I'll leave whatever's behind, and I will sort of just immerse myself in what I'm doing when I'm traveling. However, like I was in Ireland last week, and there's no gyms, right?
Right.
And the food is good,
Well,
but
pubs are their
it's
gyms. They
yeah.
just keep lifting the mugs.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but what I said to myself, all right, get into your workout.
Yeah.
So we walked, and I did 200 push-ups every day, right? In the
Yeah.
hotel room.
Yeah.
And that's my medicine.
It's your go-to. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Very cool.
And you don't stress about bringing all the supplements with you or anything like
I
that.
don't.
You
I
just
don't.
take that break,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's okay. You can do that.
Yeah.
What are your sleep patterns look like? I mean, because sleep is
I
something.
I sleep like a baby, Tony.
Really?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Very
and
good.
for many years I had sleep apnea. I had to sleep on one of those stupid machines.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And when I lost all the weight,
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's amazing what that does.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, my father's
Feel
diabetes
better.
too, but it's amazing how that stuff just
You can reverse
disappears.
it. Yeah,
Sometimes
you can
reverse it.
absolutely
Yeah.
reverse it. Yeah,
Not for everyone,
right,
but
right. But I mean,
I've talked to a lot of people
Yeah.
who on the sleep side.
yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
So
And you know, and maybe I can attest to my great sleep to our products, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I that combined with losing the weight during that whole period,
yeah, true.
you know, really could have made the difference.
Yeah,
But up until then, if I didn't sleep a full night on a sleep apnea machine, I could not function the
yeah.
next day. Couldn't
It's
function.
it's a big deal for cognitive health, for everything, really. I mean, your fitness level, it changes. If you don't sleep, it's detrimental to your health. It ages you faster than any other component. It really does.
Yeah,
we've talked about it a lot.
It's so
Yeah.
true. So
Yeah.
true.
Well, you talked about you were in Ireland. We talked about adventure. We talk about adventure several times on here on Project Y on the YCast. We had a show we did, the Adventure RX, just illustrating how going on a hike, it's all good for your health. We all know that at this point. My question is, what's the last biggest memory for you? Like, what physically challenged you? What was your last big physical challenge that you can remember?
That's really easy.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, that's an easy one. So
You gave
here's
a softball.
Yeah, you gave me a softball. Here's the irony. I said a couple minutes ago that I was a pilot for a long time.
Yeah.
After years and years ago, I developed a seizure disorder. So I had to stop flying. And for some reason, I don't know if something happened in my brain because of the seizures, which I'm seizure free, thank God.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Very good.
I developed this incredible fear of heights.
Wow.
Like I was one of these guys that I can't even drive over a large bridge.
Wow.
I'll have to pull over and make the passenger drive.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is about 2 years ago. I'm in Switzerland. And my friend convinced me to jump off a cliff strapped to some guy that I've never met with a kite. And I found myself gliding 2,000 to 3,000 feet in the air above the clouds, above a little Swiss village for over 20 minutes. And that was like the biggest awakening for me, that I realized that fear is just bullshit.
Yeah.
It's
just
not
overcome
real.
it. Part of that mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like sort of like this rebirth for me.
Wow.
And it changed everything. I mean, literally changed how I make decisions with the business. That's exactly when I got back, that's when the business really started to kick in. And it changed everything. My enthusiasm, how I treated my team members, how I interacted with them, how I assessed risk.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
It was just such a pivotal change in my life.
Yeah,
So thank you for
yeah.
that question, because that was easy, because that's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing, actually. That's an amazing story. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a video on our Instagram. You'll see, the
I
guy
got to
was
look at
filming.
that. Okay.
There's a guy filming with his GoPro on a stick.
Yeah.
And you'll see me floating in the air, and
That's
it's
pretty
just
cool.
hysterical.
That's
That
awesome.
must have been amazing.
We all deserve those awakening
those moments. Yeah.
moments, where you could
Challenge yourself.
challenge
It's a challenge.
yourself and just
When
change your perspective on life.
Yeah. And then you feel like you accomplished something pretty big because you had
my
this
gosh.
fear that maybe you shouldn't have had, and you go and do it, and you're like, wow, I could do a lot, right? As long as I don't let fear stop me.
Yeah, but
that's really the
what?
key.
Think about it, right?
Or gravity.
What is fear? What is fear, right?
Right,
Where does
right.
it come from?
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes it's ungrounded.
I'm with my faith, I'm a born again Christian. I don't fear death. So
Right.
what do I fear?
Right.
So it's just an amazing concept.
Yeah, yeah.
I can answer that a little bit for myself. I know my dad, for instance, he was big on he didn't want to die because the love, that surrounded him
Sure,
from his
sure.
kids and stuff like that. So I
Yeah,
think like
that you're
for
gonna miss
me,
them. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
a
not
big
even just missing, just the fact that like I don't want to leave my family in a sense like
right.
without me,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
feel like I feel like I'm it's important
yeah,
in their life
yeah.
other than just, oh, he's an important guy. We all have interaction, we all support each other. So it's more about that than caring about my own life,
Right.
you
So
know?
it may
So
not
Yeah,
be fear though in a way that
it's
fear
a
is
right.
different
defined.
type of
Yeah,
fear.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah, I mean,
emotional
fearing of
disconnect.
fearing of
Yeah.
driving over a bridge and falling off. That's what I'm
Right.
Right.
talking
Right.
about.
That's yeah.
Yeah. No, outside of that, I'm
Agreed.
ready to go.
Yeah.
So
No, I know. I know you are. Yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
take me,
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, well, let me ask you about, we did skip over the aesthetics a lot. What is it? Because I know myself, I know as I've gotten older, I care less about the aesthetics. And
Right.
it's weird because I may be pushing myself in the gym more or, conscious about things
Yeah.
aesthetically, but the mental thing is gone. Like I don't care what people think about how I look.
That's good. Yeah.
I just do it for myself now. I can 100% say I do that now for myself.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that, John? I'm assuming
Well,
you're kind of the same.
yeah, same thing. I've gotten to the point where as long as I'm, not overweight,
Right.
Yeah.
I know that I can get to any level I want.
Right.
Maybe I won't get the guns that Rob has, but I know I can get that a body.
No one can get the
The
guns Rob has. Forget it. It
nobody.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know I can get there, and just knowing that I can get there, and with a little extra work, is part of that self manifestation thing I was talking about earlier, right?
Yeah,
That
without a
I,
doubt.
I I
Yeah.
sort of thrive on that energy of like, yeah, I can do it, I can do it. But
Yeah.
now, I went from a 34-inch waist to a 30-inch waist, and my jeans are still wearing the same jeans
Yeah.
last year when
That's great.
when I was in,
Nice.
ripped,
Yeah.
so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not so important. And like I said earlier, your wellness journey is, at my age, at 63,
Yeah.
becomes all the spokes in the wheel.
Yeah.
It's not
Absolutely.
just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get to a point in your life, in your career, where you don't give a crap what people think, like you said. You don't care, but you still want to make sure that you show up for yourself.
Okay. So, John, you talked earlier in the beginning of the show. We talked about dark days. So I'm super interested in hearing some of these dark days, or whatever you think is that brought you light. So why don't you expand on that a little bit for us if you can?
Um, well, as I said, I was always a product creator and TV producer. So I
Mhm.
combine those two talents, and then I would create a product and then license it out. Um, for me, this the uh, obviously as we go through our professional journeys, there are probably many periods in our life that we consider to be tough, dark days.
Yeah.
But the one that stands out in my mind was um I created this product called Knocker Ball. I don't know if you remember that. It was these big balls that you got inside, these big blow up balls you got inside, you knocked into each
Oh
other,
yeah, I
right?
Oh
know
yeah,
those.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So and for me, that to me was going to be my legacy brand.
mm,
I had grown it to 30 million with 500 licensed affiliates throughout the
Wow.
country, and it was just such a pleasure because we had such a community of startup businesses that were buying them as rentals, and
Yeah.
and people. It was just a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I was in the forum every day talking to all the business guys and inspiring them and lifting them up. And I really thought this would be a true legacy product.
Yeah.
Um, all the way up until the point where kids starting to get hurt.
Ah,
And I'm talking like seriously hurt.
right. Right.
And at that point in your life, you have to make a decision. I have invested all my time and my money and into this project, and I had all these people counting on me, um, and I just couldn't deal with the guilt. and the stress.
Yeah.
I literally had to give up the business, turn it over to one of my employees, the whole business,
Yeah.
and step aside because I just couldn't do it.
Right.
And I lost everything. And that event was what made me put on all the weight, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. The
So,
stress.
looking back now, yeah, it put so much stress on my relationships,
Yeah.
on everything. My whole world collapsed right in
Yeah.
front of my eyes. But if I look back now, it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
And because having to lose that weight was the impetus for Flip My Life.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
So the universe, God, gave me another opportunity to make it right.
Yep.
And so that is the darkest event in my career,
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
I
great
mean,
story, and thanks for sharing that for sure.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
dark events are a lot of times those resets, right?
Oh yeah,
Without
That
a
was a
doubt.
definite reset. Absolutely.
Yeah.
but it's
They're there
look,
for a reason.
everybody has dark days. It's
Yeah.
it's number one, do you
Happens.
recognize it? Number two, can you come out of it?
That's the key.
And you
Right.
don't. Not everyone has to come out of it the same way,
Right.
but
Right.
whatever that mindset is, can you
Yeah.
overcome it? I guess
Yeah.
maybe is
Yeah,
a
it's
good word.
just horrible things. I don't want to belabor the injuries, but they're life-changing injuries.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you can
That's
imagine.
tough to get over. I get it.
Yeah.
That's because you're a passionate guy that cares about people, and you're trying to do something good, and you have injuries from it, and yeah, I could see how that could be pretty tough.
Yeah.
Pretty tough to get
It's
over.
not something you
Yeah.
you just forget.
No,
either.
no, without a doubt.
No, it'll stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. But you got to forgive yourself too to move on.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
Well,
That's what they told me in therapy, but it's hard.
See?
Yeah, Rob's our resident therapist.
I'm telling myself that too,
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we close, John, this has been great. We're, obviously we're talking about legacy.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that you want people to know about you, as far as legacy goes? I read the definition early, so
Yeah.
it could be tangible stuff. It could be non-tangible stuff. What's one thing, if you can choose, what would that be?
I think the main thing from all of my travels is I've always, and I sort of stole this a while back from one of our founders, but it's so true. Always show up.
Yeah.
Show up for people, but even more importantly, show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And because you'll never know what you're missing
Right.
if you don't show up. And if you don't show up for yourself and take care of yourself, what good is your each and every day? And
Right.
just showing up is just so important. And I mean, that's been one of my greatest lessons in all of this. And when you learn to do that, and it changes every aspect of your people interactions, whether it's
Yeah.
your family, and especially now for me, even at this age, I'm a late learner, obviously,
I
but
think we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but how I interact with our whole leadership team at Flip My Life, and because that has changed, the whole team is inspired. They're enthused. They're energetic about everything we do. And so it's true companionship within the team, and that's a beautiful thing to wake up to every day.
Without a doubt, that's a big deal.
And so just showing up.
I like that.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
Well, John, let me thank you first of all, because this has been a pleasure for me. I know Rob, loves talking to you. It's been a great story, and
Yeah.
I love learning from people in general. But we're entrepreneurs. I love learning from a guy like yourself who's been through it, had the dark days, and it's not just like standing up companies, right?
Yeah.
You're building a story, you're interacting with people, you're leaving a legacy, and it's been a great conversation.
No,
It's
I
really
enjoyed it.
it's really the foundation of what Project Y is there for. It was the intent of what we wanted to build here, and you're just that complete guy that we want to emulate.
Well, thank you, and it was a real pleasure. I'm glad we got a chance to sit down finally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun.
So, John, tell us where everyone can find you. I know I don't know all of them, but I know Flip My Life Now.
Yeah.
Right. Flipmylifenow.com. Where else
Correct.
on I know you're on Instagram.
Same thing on Instagram.
Okay.
Same handle.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, and check them out, guys, because they have a bunch of products. I know you guys are developing some new stuff.
Yeah.
It's the complete place. You can
absolutely.
get all your supplements and great information, good education, and great people.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then what about did you want to talk about the webinar or?
Yeah, John, maybe mention that webinar.
Go to the website. We're hosting a webinar on April 16th with Neil McDonough. It's live. It's not pre-recorded, so you'll get to ask questions and interact with Neil.
Very cool.
And spots are filling up. There's only a limited amount of spots, but there's still room.
Right.
I think it's going to be quite informative because he is a real character.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. We'll
and
put
you guys do that.
for you guys.
Yeah. You guys do that was I reading every Thursday you do?
Once a month.
Once a month. Okay. Thursday every month.
And then next month is going to be with Laura St. John with a mindset webinar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the following month is going to be with her husband, Scott St. John, who is critical to our team. He's a professional trainer and motivational coach. Yeah. And if they go into our Facebook community, they'll see Scott working with thousands of people in the community and guiding them and leading them and inspiring them. I mean, he is in the trenches and he really, really cares.
Yeah.
Just a great all around guy.
Yeah. I would say great team in general. The team cares. And that's what you have, It's pretty amazing.
Sure. Well, having that and being knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Is,
all of the above, right? And passing that knowledge.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thanks again, John. It's
Thank you,
been a
guys.
pleasure and continued success to you and Flip My Life.
Thank you. And to you.
Thank you so much. And hopefully we can have you on again as you're releasing some new product. We'd love to showcase it and because we're all doing it. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Great. Yeah. Thanks again, John.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button and subscribe and share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to drop your questions or experiences in the comments below and we'll get those answered for you. Special thanks to RCJ Productions, Keith and Lindsay, our producers. You can reach those guys at rcjproduction.com. If you're looking to start a podcast or just work with some video audio, those guys can help you out. It's rcjproduction.com. You can find us on our YouTube channel at The Ycast, Facebook Project Y, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok Project Y Now. Thanks again, guys. Look on our socials for our next show. Appreciate everyone. Take care.